My sister stole my identity to fund her lavish lifestyle, leaving me in debt. I reported her and got her arrested. That was 3 months ago. Today, she's begging me to drop the charges. Man, where do I even start with this mess? 3 months. Ago, I thought my biggest problem was deciding between Starbucks or Dunkin' for my morning coffee run. Now I'm sitting here wondering how the heck my own flesh and blood could screw me over so completely. But let me back up and tell you this whole wild story from the beginning. So picture this. I'm 28, working my butt off at a decent marketing gig, finally got my own apartment after years of roommate drama, and I'm actually starting to feel like a real adult, you know? Got my Honda Civic paid off, building up my credit score, the whole 9 yards. Life wasn't perfect, but it was mine, and I was proud of what I'd built. My sister, let's call her Sarah because that's not her real name, but whatever, she's 2 years younger and has always been the type to want everything handed to her on a silver platter. Growing up, she was the golden child who could do no wrong, while I was the responsible one who had to earn every dollar of allowance. Classic middle child versus baby of the family dynamic, if you know what I mean. After college, Sarah moved to LA because she wanted to be an influencer or some nonsense. Our parents were totally supportive, of course, sending her money every month while I was over here eating ramen and working 2 jobs to pay off my student loans. But hey, that's family. Dynamics for you, right? For about a year, everything seemed normal. Sarah would post these Instagram stories from fancy restaurants and boutique shopping trips, and I just figured our parents were being extra generous, or maybe she'd landed some sponsorship deals. Good for her, honestly. I was too busy grinding at work to pay much attention. Then came the day that changed everything. I was at Target just picking up some basics, toilet paper, laundry detergent, you know the drill. I go to pay with my debit card and it gets declined. That's weird, I think, because I just got paid and my account should have plenty. So I try my credit card instead and that gets declined too. Now I'm standing there in the checkout line feeling like a complete fool while the teenage cashier is giving me this look like I'm trying to scam them or something. I mumble some excuse about bank issues and bail without my stuff, which was embarrassing as heck. First thing I do when I get home is log into my bank account online, and my heart just drops into my stomach. My checking account, which should have had about $2,000 in it, shows a balance of negative $847. My credit card, which I barely ever used and kept for emergencies, is maxed out at its $5,000 limit. I'm staring at this screen, thinking there has to be some mistake. Maybe the bank got hacked or something. But as I scroll through the transaction history, I see charge after charge that makes no sense. Sephora, Nordstrom, someplace called Catch LA that I'd never heard of, Uber rides all over Los Angeles, even a charge for something called SoulCycle. That's when it hits me like a ton of bricks. These aren't random fraudulent charges. They're all places and things that Sarah posts about on social media. My hands are literally shaking as I grab my phone and start scrolling through her Instagram, cross-referencing the dates and locations with my bank statements. Update. Holy smokes. The response to this post has been insane. Thank you all for the support and advice. Some of you are asking if I confronted her first before going to the police. Keep reading because that conversation was absolutely wild. What would you have done in my shoes? The evidence was right there in black and white, or should I say in filtered Valencia and Ludwig. Every single fraudulent charge on my accounts matched up perfectly with Sarah's social media posts. That Nordstrom charge for $800? Posted a haul video the same day. The $200 dinner at Catch LA? Posted a story with her friends at that exact restaurant. It was like she wanted to get caught. But here's the thing that really got me. This wasn't just a few impulse purchases. Looking at the timeline, she'd been systematically draining my accounts for over 6 months. 6 freaking months of living it up in LA on my dime while I was over here budgeting down to the penny and skipping dinner sometimes to make ends meet. I knew I had to confront her, but I also knew I needed to be smart about it. So first, I called my bank and credit card company to report the fraud. They were actually super helpful and walked me through the dispute process, but they made it clear that I'd need to file a police report if I wanted to pursue criminal charges. Then I called Sarah. I'll never forget that conversation as long as I live. Me. Hey, Sarah, we need to talk. Her. Oh, hey, what's up? I'm actually at this amazing brunch spot right now. You should totally visit LA soon. Me. Cut the act. I know what you've been doing with my credit cards and bank account. The silence on the other end was deafening. Like, I could literally hear her trying to figure out what to say. Finally, she comes back with this weak attempt at playing dumb. Her. I have no idea what you're talking about. Why would you even think something like that? Me. Because I have 6 months of bank statements that perfectly match your Instagram posts, Sarah. The Sephora hauls, the expensive dinners, even your gym membership, it's all right here. That's when she completely switched tactics and went full manipulative mode, which honestly shouldn't have surprised me because it's classic Sarah. Her. Look, I was going to pay you back, okay? I've been going through a really tough time and I just needed to borrow some money. You know how hard it is to make it in LA. Me. Borrow? Sarah, you stole my identity and maxed out my credit cards. Do you have any idea how much debt you've put me in? Her. Don't be so dramatic. It's not like you can't afford it. You have a good job and everything. The audacity was unreal. She was acting like she'd done me some kind of favor by stealing from me. We went back and forth for probably 20 minutes, with her alternating between fake apologies and trying to minimize what she'd done. She kept saying she'd pay me back, but when I asked when and how, she got all vague and defensive. Finally, I told her I was giving her 48 hours to come clean to our parents and figure out a payment plan, or I was going to the police. She laughed, actually laughed, and said I'd never follow through because family doesn't do that to family. Well, she was about to find out just how wrong she was. Those 48 hours came and went with radio silence from Sarah, except for more Instagram posts of her living it up. A spa day, shopping at Melrose, dinner at some trendy rooftop place, all funded by my money, obviously. So I did exactly what I said I would do. I gathered up all my documentation, bank statements, credit card bills, screenshots of her social media posts with timestamps, and walked into the local police station to file a report. The detective I spoke with was this no-nonsense woman who'd clearly seen this kind of thing before. She looked through everything methodically and told me it was one of the most well-documented cases of identity theft she'd ever seen. Apparently, most people don't post evidence of their crimes on social media for the world to see. Within a week, they'd issued a warrant for Sarah's arrest. I found out she got picked up at LAX trying to board a flight to Vegas, probably for another weekend of partying on my dime. The irony wasn't lost on me. Our parents completely lost their minds when they found out. Dad called me screaming about how I was tearing the family apart, and how could I do this to my own sister? Mom tried the guilt trip approach, crying about how this would ruin Sarah's future and couldn't we just work it out privately. But here's the thing. I was done enabling her behavior. This wasn't some teenage prank or a momentary lapse in judgment. She'd been systematically stealing from me for months while watching me struggle financially. She'd used my social security number to open new credit accounts that I didn't even know about. The total damage was over $15,000. $15,000. That's more than some people make in 6 months. And she'd blown through it on designer handbags and bottomless mimosas, like it was nothing. Update. A lot of you are asking about the legal process and whether I felt guilty. The arraignment was honestly surreal. Seeing my own sister in handcuffs was something I never thought I'd experience. But then I remembered my credit score tanking and having to eat peanut butter sandwiches for dinner while she posted about 5-star restaurants. Did I make the right call? The legal process moved faster than I expected. Sarah got released on bail. Guess who our parents called to put up their house as collateral, and her court date was set for about 2 months out. During that time, she tried everything to get me to drop the charges. First came the apology texts. Long, rambling messages about how sorry she was and how she never meant for it to go this far. She promised she'd get a job and pay back every penny, even though she'd never held down a job for more than 3 months in her entire life. When the guilt trip texts didn't work, she tried getting our relatives involved. Suddenly, I'm getting calls from aunts and uncles I hadn't talked to in years, all telling me I should forgive and forget because that's what family does. My grandmother even called, bless her heart, asking me to consider Sarah's future and how a criminal record would follow her forever. The worst part was seeing how it was affecting our parents. They were stuck in the middle, trying to support both of us, but clearly torn up about the whole situation. I could see the stress wearing on them, especially my mom, who kept asking if there wasn't some way to handle this without involving the courts. But every time I started to waver, I'd remember checking my credit score and seeing it had dropped over 100 points. I'd think about the sleepless nights I'd spent trying to figure out how to pay rent when my accounts were drained. I'd remember that phone call where Sarah laughed at the idea of me actually following through on my threat to call the police. The Mari day of her arraignment, I took the morning off work and went to the courthouse. I wasn't required to be there, but I wanted to see this through. Watching my sister stand before a judge in an orange jumpsuit was probably one of the most surreal moments of my life. She pled not guilty, which her lawyer had advised, and they set a trial date. But here's where things got interesting. Apparently, the prosecutor had such a strong case with all the documentation and social media evidence that they offered her a plea deal pretty quickly. The deal was this: plead guilty to identity theft and credit card fraud, serve 6 months in county jail with a possibility of early release for good behavior, 5 years probation, and full restitution of the money she stole. Plus, she'd have to attend financial responsibility classes and do community service. That's when Sarah's lawyer reached out to me through the prosecutor's office. They wanted to know if I'd be willing to write a victim impact statement supporting a lighter sentence if Sarah took the plea deal and agreed to pay restitution. I thought about it for a long time. Part of me wanted to see her face the full consequences of what she'd done, but another part of me just wanted my money back and to be done with this whole nightmare. Update. The final court date was yesterday, and let me tell you, it was intense. Sarah's victim impact statement was something else. She actually tried to blame social media pressure and LA lifestyle expectations. The judge wasn't having any of it. But here's the crazy part that happened right after the sentencing. I decided to write the statement, but I didn't pull any punches. I detailed exactly how her actions had affected me financially and emotionally. I talked about the stress, the damaged credit, the embarrassment of having my cards declined in public. But I also said that I believed in second chances if she was truly committed to making things right. The sentencing hearing was last week, and Sarah gave her own statement to the judge. She stood up there crying, talking about how sorry she was and how she'd learned her lesson. But then she tried to explain her actions by blaming the pressure of social media and the expensive lifestyle expectations in LA. I almost rolled my eyes, right out of my head. Even when accepting responsibility, she was still making excuses. The judge saw right through it too. She told Sarah that her victim impact statement showed a pattern of entitlement and lack of genuine remorse. She accepted the plea deal but made it clear that Sarah would serve the full 6 months with no early release unless she could demonstrate real change. But here's the crazy part. Right after the sentencing, as I'm walking out of the courthouse, Sarah catches up to me in the hallway. She's crying and begging me to somehow get the charges dropped or appeal the sentence. Sarah, please, you have to help me. 6 months in jail is going to ruin everything. I'll never recover from this. Me. You should have thought about that before. You stole $15,000 from me. Sarah. But I'm your sister. Doesn't that mean anything to you? And you know what? I looked at her. Really looked at her. And I realized something. She still didn't get it. Even after months of legal proceedings, even after being sentenced, she was still thinking about herself and how this affected her. Not once did she ask how I was doing or if I'd been able to rebuild my credit or anything like that. Me. Being, my sister meant you should have never done this to me in the first place. That was 3 months ago. Sarah is currently serving her sentence at the county jail, and honestly, it's been the most peaceful 3 months my family has had in years. No drama, no manipulation, no constant crisis that everyone has to drop. Everything to deal with. I've been working with a credit repair company to fix the damage she did, and it's slowly improving. The restitution payments haven't started yet because she obviously can't work while she's incarcerated, but her lawyer assures me that's part of her probation requirements once she gets out. Our parents have finally started to see Sarah's behavior for what it really was, a pattern of manipulation and entitlement that went way beyond just this incident. They've started going to family therapy to work through their enabling behaviors, which honestly has been really good for all of us. As for me, I'm doing better than I have in years. My credit score is slowly climbing back up, I've got better security on all my accounts, and I finally feel like I can breathe again without constantly worrying about what financial disaster Sarah might create next. Do I feel bad that my sister is in jail? Of course, she's still family, and I don't take any joy in her suffering. But do I regret holding her accountable for her actions? Not for 1 second. Sometimes people need to face real consequences to understand that their actions affect other people. Sarah spent months treating me like a personal ATM, assuming I'd never fight back because we're family. Well, she learned the hard way that family doesn't mean you get a free pass to destroy someone's life. The wild part is, I've gotten messages from some of her LA friends asking what happened to her because she just disappeared from social media. Part of me wants to tell them the truth, that their fabulous lifestyle influencer was funding her posts by stealing from her sister. But I figure she can explain that herself when she gets out. I know some people think I was too harsh, that I should have handled it within the family instead of involving the law. But $15,000 isn't pocket change, and the damage to my credit could have affected my ability to buy a house, get a car loan, or even rent an apartment for years to come. Sarah made her choices, and now she gets to live with the consequences. As for me, I'm finally free to live my life without constantly looking over my shoulder, wondering what she might do next. And you know what the best part is? I can actually afford to go to Target now without my card getting declined. Small victories, right?